Let me ask you this. Why might someone want to be their most true, authentic self and then get with people who actually feed them a critical voice? In this video, I'm going to reflect on why. This is a story of self-sabotage, lying to yourself, and trying to resolve old childhood wounds. This is my story. Hey everyone, this is Sarah from Your Ideal Self, and on this channel I make mistakes and I learn from them, and then I share my learnings with you for your self-growth journey. You might have a mean, terrible inner critic voice and not even know it. So what do I mean by critical voice? Well, there are critical voices that are more constructive, ones that notice, identify when you've done something wrong, and then help you correct it. I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about that really, really mean one that devalues you as a person. It sounds like, you're such a failure. You can't do anything right. You're so slow. Everyone figured this out already. You're a complete waste of space. Sarah, are you really trying to pull off a British accent right now? It sounds terrible. And sometimes it even calls you names. Idiot, dumbass, or worse. Over time, these voices don't just stay in your head. You start to believe them. You even start to unconsciously look for those voices. What a comfort, right? This is my case. And I plan to make a part 2 where I'll talk about how I learned to quiet the voices some, even though they never fully go away. And now a word from our sponsors.
Hi everyone, you're watching Sarah from Your Ideal Self, and I'm her biggest fan. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss one of her next adventures. Pretty please.
And now back to the show. So where do these voices come from? Hearing voices sounds a little sketch, right? Well, you can blame your parents or caregivers, guys. They're the ones that instill the first voices in your head, because you're not born a baby criticizing yourself. This brings me to the idea of repetition compulsion, something contributed by good old Freud. You know, the guy who's overtly sexual, unconscious drives, id, ego, superego, that guy. Repetition compulsion is when you are trying to resolve past events, often traumatic events, trying to gain mastery over them, to process them. And you repeat this cycle without even knowing it. It's why it's unconscious, and it's what I was doing. What do I really mean? Well, then I have to tell you about the first critical voice in my head, which came from my dad. I love my dad. I've finally spoken openly about this to him, so I think he'd be okay to hear this. He gave me a critical inner voice. I wasn't good enough. A- wasn't good enough. I was always trying to gain his approval. Now, what does it do to someone when they're the first male figure in their life? Is you always want to get their approval, and you never get it. So I found myself looking for that voice in other people. Not only men, but my examples are from men. For instance, in college, I was with someone named, we'll call Terrence. Good old Terrence reminded me of my dad. Who knew? Now with Terrence, I couldn't do anything right. I wasn't just like inherently worth something for Terrence. Whatever I did kind of irked him. You know, small things like singing super loud in the car would annoy him, or if we're going for a walk, I would often skip forward in front of people because I got energy. Why not? He didn't like that. I always got this look kind of similar to my dad's look, which was like, what the heck are you doing? Are you stupid? So I was with Terrence for about 6-7 years. And then I think I'm getting lured by a very positive voice when I leave Terrence. We'll call the next guy POS. POS lures me in with nice comments and saying that I was beautiful and that he liked me and all this love bombing. So I thought, okay, this guy is different. I like this. But then, when this guy started to turn and become more critical. I still accepted it. It was like, whoa, what happened here? Oh, but it was familiar. It was like, oh, I'm used to this. He's being mean to me, but this feels comforting, familiar, and normal. Oh, Sarah. He would criticize me for everything I did, including the way I unplugged a cord from the wall because it was too unsafe, or he would diss me about doing YouTube videos, just didn't encourage me as a person. Of course, I stayed in that relationship for almost 3 years. Someone who didn't have this repetition compulsion of trying to gain approval from others would have had a more healthy response, and they would have left both Terrence and POS in a timely manner. Which brings me to the way that these voices were a kind of anchor. An anchor in worthlessness. Because the voices, like I said at the beginning, they're not constructive. They are talking to you individually as a person, like as a horrible entity. Like, you suck, you're not good enough. The critical voices feed core shame. And with repetition compulsion, you're not processing the traumatic event consciously, which is what I'm finally realizing now that I look back at my bad history of men. I wasn't thinking that I had a bad history. I didn't think I had a problem. There was me consciously saying I want to be my best self, and then there was me unconsciously not, because I was choosing people who were not allowing me to be that. But the thing here that is super bad, that might not be the most clear, is the lying to myself. When you're lying to yourself, you are going to continue doing the things you're going to do. If you say, I don't have a problem with relationships, like, I'm doing fine, I'm completely fine. The lie, the toxic positivity, which I had a lot of, is what keeps you in these situations. Deep down, I was anchored in worthlessness. The belief that I just wasn't good enough. And that belief made me drown in unhealthy relationships. Yes, I talked about my bad history with men, but no, it wasn't just men. I also found a critical, harsh voice in my workplace boss, and I stayed in that company for 4.5 years. I'm also talking friendships. There were some friends that were quite loving of me, and I dismissed them because I just couldn't believe that they really liked me for me. So it wasn't just that I attracted the wrong people, I rejected the right ones. When someone genuinely cared about me, I didn't trust it. I thought I had to earn love. So when someone gave it freely, I pulled away. If you look at the people around you, are they confirming your worst fear or affirming your worth? For a long time, I chose the people who confirmed my worst fears. In part 2, I will talk about how to quiet the inner voice, because it never fully goes away. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for watching. Comment, tell me about the voices, what they say to you, what you thought of this video. Thanks all.